basically coming of Nikita Khrushchev. So her question is कि उनके आने के बाद में what happened कि he wanted some engagements with West, है ना? But during his time only the Cuban Missile Crisis happened. Okay, so the reason behind Cuban Missile Crisis was that in Cuba was a very small country, and in Cuba the government was of Fidel Castro. Okay, and under Fidel Castro, the Russia, what they did under Nikita Khrushchev, they basically implanted the weapons. Okay, so they basically increased the militarization and nuclearization of Cuba. So that became a point where this crisis happened. So इसका मतलब ये नहीं है, but इसका मतलब this doesn't means that Nikita Khrushchev did not wanted engagements with West. He wanted engagements with West, but for his country's national interest, he did that thing, and that basically irritated West, and that started the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. Attack करने से नहीं हुआ था. By attack, this crisis did not happen. The main reason behind this crisis was actually the implant of the nuclear nukes there in Cuba by USSR. वो न्यूक्लियर न्यूक्स को इम्प्लांट करना था उसके पीछे का रीजन. ठीक है, रीजन वाज डिफरेंट. तो एक सेकेंड रुको, सही रुको, दिखाओ एक बार. ये कहीं रखना पड़ेगा मेरे को. फैन हो गई है उनकी. अब देखो क्लास में बनाती रहती है यार. नहीं बनाती. चलो, व्हाट वाज द लास्ट पॉइंट? हाँ. Now see, this what we basically reveal, what we get to know about the, just a second. Yeah. So what we get to know about all these things was basically from the words of KPS Menon. KPS Menon was actually the first ambassador of India to China. All right. So according to him, all these things are basically revealed to us. All right. Now see, our policy, you know this very well, that India's policy towards Tibet was actually the continuation of the British policy, because we maintained that India maintained this stance that we don't want Chinese complete occupation over Tibet. All right. Now there was one major irritant. Now see what happened. Actually, in 1913, one agreement happened when we were under Britishers. Okay, and there it was the Qing dynasty. Okay, Qing dynasty in China. So between the British government and this dynasty, there happened an agreement. All right. So that agreement, for example, this is China, this is Tibet, and here this is India. All right. This was the boundary between India and Tibet, and the eastern boundary between India and Tibet was actually finalized during this agreement only. And the line, the border was actually drawn by McMahon. And this McMahon is this line, this boundary line is actually called as what we call it? We call it as McMahon line. All right. So now the present stance of China is that, or when we talk about what was the stance of China during this entire decade of 1950s and 60s, it was that this agreement of boundary, resolving the boundary dispute, was basically signed when China was weak. So they said that now we are not weak and we will not accept the line that was drawn when China and India both were basically not the sovereign powers. All right. So that is their point. Now here is a part in Kashmir, that is Aksai Chin. Now they always claimed over Aksai Chin. Okay. Now they always had a very strong claim over Aksai Chin. They wanted, and even one major irritant was there between India and China. Actually, what happened? See, now just try to understand this logic. In 1959, 3 years before 1962 war, there was a very strong uprising in Tibet. Okay, there was a very strong uprising in Tibet. Now just understand, suno abhi, dhyan se. There was a strong in what I just told is in 1950. One issue is basically the McMahon issue that you just understood. That they says that this line was drawn when the CCP was not established. Okay, when there was no sovereign control of the present communist government in China. All right, and it was also signed between India when India was under the colonialism. So they are not ready to basically accept this McMahon line. All right, that was basically the line border that was drawn between Tibet and India. All right. Now, one major thing was that in 1959 there was a Tibet uprising. Okay, a uprising that happened in Tibet for granting autonomous to Tibet. The reason behind this uprising was to basically grant autonomy to Tibet. All right. Now in US there was obviously the Western government that also did not wanted that communism spreads to Tibet. This Western government did not wanted that China, which is a communist government, must spread its influence over Tibet. They never wanted that Tibet comes under the complete control of China. For that, they supplied arms to Tibetans. Okay? They supplied arms to Tibetans, by the help of which the Tibetan people they rose in uprising using arms and ammunitions. All right, clear? Achha, just give me a second. Huh. Just understand this thing that what happened now. Basically, a alliance became. All right. Now here, US started raising the Tibetan uprising. All right. US started funding this Tibetan issue. All right. Now, India also was maintaining the same stance. India was also maintaining this particular stance that Tibet must be given autonomy. We also raised some statements that complete annexation of Tibet must not happen. We even gave refuge or asylum to the 14th Dalai Lama. In the Maoist mind, in the mind of Chinese premier, तुम ध्यान नहीं दे रहे हो, थोड़ा कम दे रहे हो, तुम्हें कह रहा हूँ, नहीं तुम्हें नहीं, तुम्हारे आगे वाले मैडम आप, हाँ तो ध्यान कम दे रहे हो, हाँ 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 हाँ. This is true. This is true that this was there, and even today also. नहीं, but today Xi Jinping changed this stance. Okay, even Mao Zedong, नहीं, Mao Zedong was also a long visionary leader. All right, yes, but this person was Deng Xiaoping was not Mao. Sorry, Deng Xiaoping was a long visionary leader who basically gave the four pillars of Chinese policy, but yes, he was a short-term leader only. But now understand. Now, in the mind of Chinese premier, what happened? It came that USA, Tibet, and India are in axis. There is an alliance between them. All right, and even remove Tibet. He thought that even for Tibet, USSR is also in support of India and US. Why? Because when the uprising happened in Tibet in 1959, USA kept silent. USSR did not condemn that uprising. So now it came in the mind of the Chinese premier that these countries are somewhat having a axis. Right? They are having an inbuilt axis in them. Okay. And this became the major irritant. And the time India gave asylum to the 14th Dalai Lama, that became the major, biggest reason why this war happened. Because they presumed that decision of India as a intervention in their sovereign right. You getting the point? Huh? समझ रहे हो? My voice is not clear? Still it's not clear? Aarti? Now it's okay. Okay, all right. Yeah, so just start writing this. Put a heading, Tibet issue. Okay, so just write. According to KPS Menon, and in bracket write the first India's ambassador to China, comma, Jawaharlal Nehru intended to support Tibet's independence. Now see, this independence is not the actual true meaning. We don't need to understand this word independence to its true meaning. This doesn't mean really independence or complete independence. This independence means the continuation of the British policy. So right, independence here meant autonomy for Tibet under nominal Chinese. This independence meant autonomy for Tibet under nominal Chinese suzerainty. SUZ under nominal Chinese SUZERAINTY suzerainty. Okay. Right, next point. In 1950s, China began consolidating their control over Tibet. China began consolidating their control over Tibet by increasing by increasing their military presence and administrative integration. Now, the next point, just give a point heading only, right? Role of US in this. Right? United States as part of their Cold War strategy. United States as part of their Cold War strategy sought to contain communist expansion. Sought to contain communist expansion. ठीक है? By supporting Tibetan groups to raise uprising in Tibet. Also right, during this 1979 uprising in Tibet, sorry, 59, 1959 uprising in Tibet, comma, USSR remained neutral. USSR क्या रहा? Remained neutral.
Sir,
Now write them. Yes.
sir, can every line can you repeat twice, please, sir? Actually, in the between the voice breaking issue is also coming.
So which point you have missed?
Sir, actually now it's not missed. Like repeat twice, please. Sir.
You want me to repeat which point?
Sir, actually upcoming you are going to explain, no, sir. That one you like two times if you read lines means like we can write properly.
Okay, so you want me to repeat lines twice?
Yes, sir.
And okay, yes, we'll do that. Okay, so right now the thing is कि Mao believed, we don't right, now Mao started believing that there is a possible axis of India, US and USSR against China. Okay, now write the next point. Mao began to believe that India, US and USSR were collectively working against China. And what was India's reaction to this 1959 uprising? So India's reaction during this 1959 uprising was that, no, don't write. India's uprising during this uprising. Whenever I just tell you write, then only write. Okay, from now onwards, I will instruct you to write, then only write. So during this time, India's basically response was that their uprising happened. The army of China basically started committing atrocities on the people of Tibet. Now the 14th Dalai Lama, he wanted asylum in India, and India gave him asylum, a refuge, political refuge in Dharamshala in Himachal Pradesh. That is a part of India. Okay, that was basically at that time it was in Punjab. Okay, so it got separated from Punjab in 1966 only. All right. So we gave refuge to them in Dharamshala. All right. So that became a very big irritant. All right. So that was seen as a very big, I would say, this granting of political asylum to Dalai Lama was a continuation of the British policy. Okay, it was not a result of calculated steps. All right, it was not at all a result of calculated steps. All right, so just write this, right? During the time of the Tibetan uprising in March 1959, okay, in March 1959, ठीक है, India expressed sympathy for the Tibetan cause. Right, Tibetan cause, and granted asylum to 14th Dalai Lama. ठीक है, and granted asylum to 14th Dalai Lama, and allowed him and his followers to take refuge in Dharamshala. To take refuge in Dharamshala. All right, clear? Now see, just we will understand that border wala issue, है ना? So in the during the time when in 1913 the King dynasty was basically ruling over China, and I just told you, and in India there were Britishers. So basically there happened a Simla agreement. Okay, not Shimla, it's Simla agreement. And by that agreement, the boundary, the in the eastern Tibet, eastern boundary. Now, when you will see the map like this, the eastern part of the border said that boundary was demarcated. All right, basically by McMahon, you know, and like that line is called as McMahon line. All right, and basically due to this, and just when this line was being finalized, at that time Tibet was not a complete part of China. Now because Tibet now became the complete part of China, so now China was basically saying that this McMahon line was drawn when China was weak, and we will not be accepting this line. All right. So just put a small heading: the Tibet and border issue between India and China. Right? Tibet under the Qing dynasty, Tibet under the Qing dynasty of China enjoyed a greater degree of independence. Enjoyed a greater degree of independence. All right. And after the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1911 to 12, Tibet declared its independence. In China, Qing dynasty in China, Tibet declared its independence. Okay, after the fall of this dynasty, Tibet declared its independence. So, and then next point, right? In 1913 to 14, in 1913 to 14, Simla Agreement, right? Simla Agreement was signed between British
Sir,
and
1913, 14, 13, no, sir.
yes, and Simla Agreement was signed between British India and Tibet. Henry McMahon, Henry proposed a line. Henry McMahon proposed a boundary line. Later came to be known as McMahon line. Later came to be known as McMahon line. Clear? Huh? Pakka? All right. So now, this demarcated the eastern boundary between India and Tibet. This demarcated the eastern boundary between, but this demarcated the eastern boundary between India and Tibet. But China never accepted the Simla Agreement and the validity of McMahon Line. So now there was a dispute with regards to this India's, this Tibet, now this Arunachal border. Okay, there remained a, still there is a dispute with regards to this border. All right, because China says that Arunachal Pradesh is a part of China, and even when you will on the deep seek, there is the AI generated by Chinese company, that's a Chinese app. Okay, when you will ask them whether Arunachal Pradesh is a part of India or not, that will give you no answer. So they still claims that they believe in a 5 digits theory. Okay, so they says that this palm is Tibet, Arunachal, Sikkim, Nepal, Bhutan, Aksai Chin. They consider them as their part. Okay, so they claim their sovereignty over those parts. Okay, so here the thing is that this is basically the issue with regards to the eastern border. But now what related to the, what happened with the western border, that is the border here in Kashmir, Aksai Chin border, that remained undemarcated. Okay, right, the next point. On the other hand, unlike the eastern sector, on the eastern sector, देखो वेस्टर्न सेक्टर की जो, so there was still the problem, obviously the problem was there with this sector, but this sector was completely unresolved. Okay, completely unresolved. So even a major problem was there with regards to this sector. All right, so just right, what have you written last thing? Unlike the eastern sector, the western sector had no clearly defined boundary. Okay, at the time of independence. Now see, if I can show you the map, just give me a second. If I can show you the map, okay. Uh, होगा। क्या आया है? यही है। अरे 10 मिनट तो हम ऐसे ही पढ़ते। See, this is Aksai chain. All right. Now what happened? India always said that this is India. After independence, India claimed this part to be ours. ठीक है कि भाई ये हमारा है. Aksai chain is our part, Indian territory. All right. This is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Okay, the area that is at present in the control of de facto control of Pakistan, but ultimately the technical and official and in every sense part of India, complete part of India. All right. Now this is the portion, okay, that in 1963 this portion was gifted by Pakistan to China. So was part of POK, but now Karakoram Tract is this. Okay. Now this part, why? Because this part is not at all very fertile or no as such relevance is there. Okay. So the geography is also very difficult. But after independence, this became the LAC. All right. After this war, 1962 war, this line became the LOC, and China claimed the complete control of this part and took the control also. Okay. Now, why is this part disputed? This part is disputed because at that time when India became independent, India was having control over this. But China wants control of this because this is the mainland China. All right, this is mainland China. Here are mountains, and this part, this Aksai chain part, can be used as a part to get access from China to Tibet. This is a transit route from China to Tibet. That is the main reason why China is claiming over this part, and after the war got the control of this part also. Getting the point? So this sector, so this is the boundary with Tibet, and this is the western sector that still remained to be disputed. And there was no as such clear cut boundary line in this sector between India and China. Getting the point? So write this thing. What have you written? Last thing. India claimed Aksai Chin as part of its territory. However, India claimed Aksai Chin as part of its territory. However, there was no Indian effective military and administrative control. There was no effective Indian military and administrative control in this region. All right. Next point, right? China used Aksai Chin. China used Aksai Chin strategically as a route, strategically as a route to access and control Tibet. To access and control Tibet. दिया आज इतनी एक्टिव क्यों नहीं लग रही है? थक गई आज? फिर why are you not looking so active? Because you are the most energetic person in class. Where is that energy? You should know. थक गई आज लग रहा है. और कैसी बन गई आपकी पेंटिंग? नहीं बनी हुई. अब कहाँ से बनाओ? अब किसकी बनाई? किसी की नहीं. मेरी बनाना. ठीक है. Now make my painting. Okay. चलो. So this created the foundation for all the future disputes between India and China. Right? This created the foundation for all the disputes between India and China. There were instances that I won't like you to write, but just to tell you that after that Panchsheel agreement was signed, and I told you that that was the peak of India-China friendship. At that time, what happened? India officially, just after that summit, when Jawaharlal Nehru resumed his duties, just after that signing of the Panchsheel agreement. So after that, India officially published a map in which India showed the Aksai Chin as part of India, okay, and basically clearly demarcated the McMahon line. So, including the McMahon line and with Aksai Chin, India published the official map, and China did not rejected it. China did not claim or basically raise any concern with regards to that map. All right. So this was also a reason why Nehru assumed that now China has accepted our boundary. Okay, China has accepted Aksai Chin as to be part of India and has accepted the McMahon line. But that was a wrong belief. All right, that was a very wrong belief. China in 1957 to the so in that part of Aksai Chin in which it was having control, so it basically started military building strategic military roads there. Okay, now this became a irritant. Now because here in the upper part there is Xinjiang, and to connect Xinjiang with Tibet, it started constructing roads here. Okay, it started constructing the highway there. Okay, so now this became a very big irritant, and basically in 1960 we tried to get to an agreement wherein basically Zhou Enlai proposed the settlement of the agreement, wherein Zhou Enlai said that China would accept Indian control over Arunachal Pradesh, but in return China want Aksai Chin. This was the proposal that was given by Zhou Enlai. Okay, so Chinese premier changed, and now Zhou Enlai came, and Zhou Enlai wanted that India basically, so they wanted that we will accept Arunachal to be complete part of India, but in return we want what? We want Aksai Chin. Okay, so India, obviously Nehru rejected that proposal in 1960. Nehru never wanted that. So now this basically not accepting this proposal given by Zhou and Lai increased the mistrust between both the countries. All right. So now what India did in 1961, okay, so this proposal was given by Zhou and Lai in 1960, and in 1961 India adopted a policy called as forward policy, because they started constructing their roads in some parts of Aksai Chin to basically connect the Xinjiang with Tibet. We adopted forward policy, and by our forward policy in 1961, Nehru and Indian government under Nehru started building forward infrastructure in our border area. Okay, we now started building our infrastructure and basically advance. So we started sending our troops to the high altitude areas. Okay, because those areas are actually very difficult areas to survive. All right, but because we were just seeing, we were sensing the danger, so that's why what we did was we started sending our more troops to those areas. All right, but now it was, I think, too late. Okay, it was too late for this. Right, this in 1960, Zhou and Lai. In 1960, Zhou and Lai proposed a settlement, proposed a settlement by which China would accept Indian control, by which China would accept Indian control over Arunachal Pradesh, by which China would accept Indian control over Arunachal Pradesh. In bracket, you can write the eastern sector. And in return of this, India should accept, and in return of this, India should accept Chinese control over Aksai Chin. Chinese control over Aksai Chin. Right? Nehru rejected this proposal. Nehru rejected. In the next line, you should write this. Nehru rejected this proposal, and this increased the suspicion in China over India's intention regarding Tibet. In the next point, right? In response to this failed diplomatic, दिया लिखो क्या हुआ तो क्यों नहीं लिख रही थी यूवर अच्छा नहीं अभी लिखो क्या बताया मैंने व्हाट आई टोल्ड in response to the failed diplomatic channel in 1960, in 1961, India adopted a forward policy, and underline this forward policy, put an arrow to this forward policy, and then write the meaning of this forward policy. India adopted forward policy. Under this, troops were sent to advanced high altitude areas. Troops were sent to advanced high altitude areas to assert claims. But Indian troops lacked high altitude training. But Indian troops lacked high altitude training and adequate logistical supports were not present. And adequate logistical supports were not present. Okay. And this created a military imbalance. This created a military imbalance between India and China. Okay. So this was not the right thing that was basically in India. And what was happening was, see, in India, the troops were majorly working in plain areas. They were not having that expertise of how to basically make their presence in high altitude areas, right? And what happened? Now in 1962, out of all these things, whatever we just studied, है ना, McMahon issue, Eastern Sector Demarcation issue, Tibetan issue, Dalai Lama refuge issue. Okay, so before that we have basically understood the peak of our friendship. We understood about how basically there was a Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai things going on. But ultimately in 1962, China launched a full-scale attack over India. Okay, even in Arunachal Pradesh, the army of China reached until Brahmaputra plains. Okay, their army reached the Brahmaputra plains. They were there present inside Indian territory. All right, that was a great blow to India's sovereignty. All right, so right, the head put the heading, the 1962 war. The 1962 war. Right, in October 1962, in October 1962, China launched a large scale attack. China launched a large scale attack in the eastern sector. Next point, Chinese forces advanced deep inside Indian territory, advanced deep inside Indian territory. Okay, their forces advanced very deep inside Indian territory and reached close to Brahmaputra plains. Reached close to Brahmaputra plains. After almost a month, China declared a ceasefire. China declared a ceasefire by which we maintained status quo position. By which we maintained a status quo position. We'll stop in the next point. The diplomatic relations between India and China deteriorated severely. The diplomatic relations between India and China deteriorated severely, comma, ambassadorial ties ambassadorial ties were suspended in 1962, which only got restored in 1976. Which only got restored in 1976. Okay, so this was a major blow to India's outlook. It dented India's global image. The public opinion was that the Chinese actions were a betrayal of trust. That was a betrayal of trust. All right. So now the policy shifted from idealism to realism, as already told you in the evolution of foreign policy. Now, until this war, we had this idealistic policy, and this was not a small betrayal. है ना? When a few years in few years of relationship, when human beings gets betrayed, है ना? Just after 2, 3, 4, 5 years of relationship, so people become that actor है ना with long beards. क्या नाम है उनका? था ना एक मूवी में रणवीर कपूर has done this that acting. क्या नाम, बहुत बाल पूरे करके, है ना? So people नहीं नहीं एनिमल नहीं, हाँ शाहिद कपूर था क्या वो, कबीर 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 है, कबीर सिंह. So after a betrayal of in relationship, the people become Kabir Singh. So just think, when the leader of a country is betrayed by another country, the shock that he got, the way he trusted the intention of that country, that I would say the neighbor, he trusted the intentions of that neighbor, and in return, that neighbor gave his country a attack, a war, you know? And within 2 years he died also. You know? Within 2 years he died. Because like many people who were close to him says that he never recovered from the shock he got by the 1962 war. Okay, so right, just put a very small heading: impact of the war on India. (1962) war led to a major shift in India's outlook. 1962 war led to a major shift in India's outlook. Clear? This was a major shock, है ना, for India. Don't write, don't write. Now, public opinion viewed China's action as betrayal of trust. किसने पहचाना था वो कबीर सिंह ने ना? मैंने देखी नहीं है. I have not seen that movie. What's the name of the movie? The name of the movie is Kabir Singh. Oh, detail. Nice. You know deep details about this movie. You have watched this? चलो. So क्या क्या हुआ? Yesterday this thing happened. I was taking class and from 6:30 till 6:42 that got hanged at PC, and I just saw that I am moving here and in that screen I am there only. I went there also, but still I was there. I called him, what happened to this? So then he told me that then now again for that 12 minutes I had to repeat everything again. So he's again checking the thing, you know. So this right. And this marked the shift in India's foreign policy outlook. This marked a shift in India. लिखो अच्छा लिख लिया अब बस हो गया एंड दिस मार्क द अरे भाई साहब लिखो अगेन टेल मी अच्छा पब्लिक ओपिनियन व्यूड चाइना's action as a betrayal of trust. Oh, you are done but others are not. तुम कहां थे आधों ने लिखा आधों ने नहीं लिखा. This marked the shift in India's foreign policy outlook from idealism to realism. तुम सीधे बैठो ऐसे हाथ के बल नहीं सीधे बैठो एकदम. हाँ रियलिज्म. तुम भी सीधे बैठो एकदम पीछे पोस्चर करो. हाँ ठीक है मैडम कहीं भी सपोर्ट नहीं एकदम पोस्चर खराब हो जाएगा. तुम्हें बहुत मेहनत कर यू हैव टू वर्क सो हार्ड. This is just the beginning of your hard work. The time is going to come soon when you will have to put at least 8 hours a day in your studies, है ना. उस टाइम पे never ignore the body posture. Please mind it. I have myself suffered from this. For almost 8 months I was like not able to sit properly because I used to sit with wrong posture throughout my study. Okay, in library used to just bend down and just write make notes. These many notes were there, but during time of exam I wasn't able to revise it because I had health issues at that time. And this was not just with me. I have seen many people suffering from this cervical, and this is especially with the UPSC aspirants. And this problem is less talked about, but telling you honestly, whenever your body need, take rest. Take rest. If your body, see, one approach never suits everyone. All right, everyone has their different set of approach. Okay, you can do this also. Study for 25 minutes, take rest for 5 minutes. You can do also like study for 40 minutes, take rest for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, है ना. But never for a single stretch, never go beyond this. I would say 40 to 45 minutes. Okay, and you can use that forest app in your mobile. Have you used that? Nahin. You can use that forest app. Okay, that will be the like best choice for you as an aspirant. So that because what happens is that's a app only, and in the app the forest will grow. All right, that will give you alarm after a basically fixed duration of time. If you will start using your phone, the forest will fall, and that will be your loss. है ना. Like mental loss, obviously psychological loss, you was not able to grow the forest. Okay, so that is the main concept of that app, है ना. You can use that app. That's a very beautiful app for especially designed for students. Okay, to basically help them from getting away from the distraction. Okay, and like please tell me honestly, online also tell me honestly one thing, how many of you like watch the reels and shorts? How many of you do that? Others don't. You people don't watch the reel. Aarti, Harshika, Vishnu, you all watch reels, huh?
Yes, sir, but not every day, but Saturday, Sunday.
Yes, na. Aarti, you? No. See, telling you now, if you are watching reels, my suggestion is don't stop watching YouTube, don't stop watching using mobile, use mobile, but please switch to longer videos. Please. Why telling you? What happens? This is a long study. For example, these are notes in front of you, and the preparation demands that you, when you start reading the notes, in a one go, you must maintain that concentration. है ना? It requires concentration to basically concentrate on every fact, every point, every concept, and to basically scroll down for at least 30 minutes. What the reels is, how the reels are impacting your mind. Na? After every 30 seconds, after every 1 minute, the context is changing. है ना? The context changes. Now what happens after scrolling the reels for 2 hours also, you will barely be able to recall what you have watched 10 minutes before. You will barely be able to recall. That is actually damaging your concentration power. Because by sudden change in the context, in the topics, what is happening is your mental ability to concentrate on one topic is getting reduced deliberately. These are scientific, there are n number of scientific reports that are claiming this thing to be happening. All right, there are several reports that claims this thing. So instead, now if you watch 15 minutes long video, that entire concept will remain there, and even after 2 days you will be able to recall what you have watched there. But even after scrolling 10 hours of reel, you will only be able to recall only that reel that is continuously coming, and not to that person, but only the topic. Okay, whatever is repeating. So get example from that only. You are able to recall the thing that is repeating, that is continuously coming. So instead of that, switch to, as a student, as an aspirant, switch to longer videos. Okay, please, it's a request to all of you. Please just don't destroy your youth time, don't destroy your miracle time. This age is a miraculous age. This age is a wonderful age. Okay, why UPSC has the age limit of 25 and not the age limit of 28? Because UPSC want young minds to come. UPSC wants young mind to come, who have this miraculous power. All right. So now coming on to next topics, please mind this thing. Okay, please apply this thing. This was just a piece of advice from me. If you accept this, then it's good. If not, then it's your choice. So now this impact was that we changed our strategy. We basically shifted from idealism to realism. All right. So now only in 1976 we normalized the ties when Huang Ho visited India. All right. So at that time only the border talks got resumed, and only in the time of Rajiv Gandhi in 1986 to 88, he basically introduced a very new approach whereby we de-hyphenized the border issues on one side. We kept under Rajiv Gandhi only this thing was made possible, that we started doing all our regular thing, that is working on trade, working on basically this culture, diplomacy on every other area, and to keep our border disputes aside. So that only happened in 1986 to 88. All right. So before that, when Huang Ho visited India, so in 1976, at least our diplomatic ties again got reconnected, rebuilt. All right. So just put a heading: normalization of relations in 1976. Normalization of relations in 1976. Now, right, in 1976, in 1976, the ambassador level relations between India and China were restored. when Wang Hua yes, Huang Hua visited India and talks on border issues got resumed. Talks on border issues got resumed. Now put a heading shift under Rajiv Gandhi 1986 to 88. Rajiv Gandhi introduced a new approach. What happened? Heading shift under Rajiv Gandhi 1986 to 88. Right. Rajiv Gandhi introduced a new approach, clear? Right, whereby both the countries dropped the condition that see, earlier it was that if border disputes will be resolved, only then we will talk ahead. Now we resolved that okay, let the border issues be there because these are not getting resolved since the decades. So let's start cooperating on other areas. Okay, so drop the condition that border dispute must be resolved before improving relations. That border issues must be resolved before improving the relations. Yes. India also, in relation to India also. Acha, don't say you are seeing this is western side of India. Don't assume this. This is Tibet. So if we talk about this portion that with which India shares boundary with Tibet, so this is its western side, this is its eastern side. Yes, yes. McMahon line, है ना? है ना? And basically this in between there comes Nepal, there comes Bhutan. Okay, so that is so by basically Nepal and Bhutan. So I recall that few years back in one batch when student asked me this, sir, we don't have, while I was teaching India Nepal, so he asked me that, sir, we don't have any boundary with Nepal. Okay, people are coming, people are going. Why don't we include Nepal with us? Because he was from Gorakhpur, and Gorakhpur is on boundary only, है ना? On border only. He was like a few kilometers from Gorakhpur. I know that place. Okay, let's I think near Raxol border or something like that. Wahan, his village was there. He was like, sir, for buying something, some cheap vegetables. In the evening, we used to go to Nepal and then to come back within few hours. Why don't we make it another state? We will get more states. We will get good things, and we will get many. So things will be normalized, and see, I said okay, we could have done that. The main thing is that Nepal was never a part of British Empire. And one thing is by the colonial legacy, because the part that was not part of British Empire, we don't accept that to be India's part. Another thing is that Nepal has always been an Himalayan kingdom. And one very important thing is that if Nepal will be ours, our more boundary will be attached to China. It will increase our headache. So the proportion is that we will get negative things by doing this rather than getting positive things. Okay. So let Nepal be a buffer between India and China. A very long boundary is basically separated because of Nepal being there. Okay. So let it be there. Okay. Let it be like it is. Okay. So don't talk about including it and making the number of India's state even more. Okay, so don't talk about that. So now हुआ था क्या? विष्णु कोई डिस्कनेक्शन हो गया था क्या?
No, sir.
Harshika and Aarti both are not here in class. Why so? Chalo. So now moving ahead, this is what was the last thing? And a new strategy before improving relations. Before improving, है ना? Relations. A new strategy was adopted. A new strategy was adopted to improve cooperation in trade, culture, and diplomacy. And this created a positive environment for negotiations. And see what happened after this thing. Now, the Deng Xiaoping came, okay, and Deng Xiao, you're still writing very slow, very slow. Quoting you. I was too fast, and you are not slow. I will always be fast. Be fast. Okay. चलो देखो सुनो लिसन मैं ज्यादा जल्दी बोलता हूँ कोई तो कहो यार नहीं बोलते someone please support me being diplomatic now now the thing is the leadership in China changed okay I am not able to recall the exact year when Deng Xiaoping came, but I know that in I think 80s he was there. Okay. 76, 78, 79, 80, he was there. Okay. Deng Xiaoping came. And Deng Xiaoping, see, in communism, it's a abuse, revisionism. Okay. Because in communism, it is like that everything will be done by the state. We will not be having any tie with the West. But Deng Xiaoping brought modernization plan under which he started improving its ties with the West. And that phase came when our relations also got a upstairs. Okay. So India-China relation because Deng Xiaoping left all the revolutionary principles. He was not having as such the revolutionary principles. Okay. So that contributed to the improvement in our ties. All right. So under Deng Xiaoping, see the right spelling. Deng Xiaoping. Under Deng Xiaoping, China moved away from revolutionary ideology. China moved away from revolutionary ideology and adopted a market-oriented economic model and adopted a market-oriented economic model, and this made China more open to cooperation with India, and this made China more open to cooperation with India. All right, all right, all clear? Are you sure? So now this was that after, now even after this end of the Cold War, that I see now we will be discussing about the end of the Cold War and basically lessening in the tensions between India and China, and then we will be moving. क्या रह गया? बोलो बोलो मैं बताऊं. ओरिएंटेड मॉडल, कुछ भी लिख लो, मार्केट ओरिएंटेड अप्रोच, मार्केट ओरिएंटेड मॉडल, whatsoever be. Okay, now see, after concluding this thing na, we will be coming on again to 1962 and we'll be discussing about the nuclear issue. Okay, PTBT, CTBT. Okay, so now write a small heading: end of the Cold War and time over, or your pages over? You still have the pages na? Right. So end of the Cold War and renewed cooperation. दिखा रहे हैं, लिखो और पढ़ो चुपचाप. So now the disintegration of Soviet Union comma Tiananmen. This I will tell you in the next class what is Tiananmen Square protest. You also please have a read about this, okay, at home. Tiananmen Square protest and the end of the Cold War, and the end of the Cold War impacted our relations, and China adopted a good neighborhood policy. And both countries started moving towards mutual understanding, towards mutual understanding, towards mutual understanding for survival and stability. Now put a heading: nuclear diplomacy in India-China relations. Courses, listen. On Monday, मैं extra time लूंगा, कोई problem नहीं होनी चाहिए. Today I am leaving because I have not already given you ultimatum. I now have given you ultimatum. Be prepared and come by this mindset. I can leave, that's on me. I can leave you on time also. But if I want, I can take extra time. See, because now telling you one thing, as a basically as a institute, okay, we are having, we have to basically conclude the classes, hai na? But see, sometimes a teacher's wish is to deliver something extra, hai na? So that, so as to basically benefit you. No, I have to follow that time limitation also, but have to give something extra. So in turn I will have to take some time extra, okay, from your routine. 10 minutes, I'm not talking about 30 minutes, I'm talking about just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, okay. So please bear with me, all right. But I can guarantee you one thing, nothing will be asked in your IR like outside the notes. I can guarantee you this thing, guarantee 100%. Now one thing only you can do is to trust. Other than trust you don't have anything to do, okay. Materials are there in market, but those materials are too bulky, and those which have less content are not good. Because I am also like I also have basically searched everything in the market, okay, so that I can give you some reference which you can refer. But until the date I couldn't find any single reference book that is sufficient or in which limited content is written, right. Books are there but that have vast content. So that's why I'll have to deliver you in the class itself, so bear with me, all right. Okay, bye bye, take care, meet you on Monday, है ना? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Vishnu, Harshika, bye bye.